What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So we are going to be doing a slightly different format. I am going to be doing kind of a stream with my face as well as voice from now on. I'm going to be doing these more often, and I'm going to be addressing key topics that people keep talking about and just giving my thoughts on it. So the big one is the VeVe app dying? I'm going to be sharing with you guys the data, exactly what it shows, and my thoughts on it, and what needs to happen in order to kind of see the progression of this ecosystem across the next couple of months to the end of the year, and then so on. So I'm going to go straight into it, right? So what I'm going to be sharing is the OMI burn sheet created by Puddin Cheeks on Twitter. So Puddin Cheeks is a super OG guy, like really nice guy. Definitely do have a chat with him. But what's really cool is we have different columns showing the OMI being burned, gem purchases, and how much gems are free floating within the app. So this is really important because it shares with us some very important insight to why certain things exploded early on, why certain collectibles with high edition size did really well, and why a lot of people might be wrong with what's going to be happening in the short to mid-term on VeVe. So as we can see, one key point is the number of free floating gems on the app. So I'm gonna be touching on that first, right? So if we have a look here, we've got total purchases and fees, and we can see that this is the number of gems in the app. So this is a cumulative number. So to date, we've had $221 million spent on the VeVe app, which is quite a lot of money. And of that, 124 million gems are currently in the app. Now, if we go back, right, let's just go back in time just so you guys can see kind of how representative this data is. So I believe the Spider-Man drop that came around about July. I might be wrong, but let's just go with July, right? So around about kind of mid to end of July, right, we had around about 3 to 4 million gems in the app, which is actually not a lot. 3 to 4 million gems in the app. And that's around the time when the Spider-Man dropped. We were, complaining, or not we, but a lot of people were complaining that the edition size of Spider-Man was way too high. And if you had counted the total amount of gems needed to sell out the Spider-Man from the store completely, that figure was very high. It was in the millions. And obviously, the amount of gems in the app was not enough to buy out all the Spider-Man collectibles, and that's why it sat in the store for quite a while. Now, this was in July, okay? So if we scroll up a bit, let's go to September, right? So September, we've had consistent gem growth, and we're around about 6 million and 7 million, and then 10 million, and then end of September, 15 million. So between July and September, the number of gems in the app went 3x. And this was around the time when the Spider-Man collectible really started popping off. So obviously, if you have 3 times as many gems in the app than when the Spider-Man drop, you can expect probably a 3 times increase in the price, if not more, because people started to see the significance of it. Now, 50 million gems in the app in September. Let's go towards the end of the year, straight down to December, right? So December, end of December, we jumped from 15 million to 74 million gems in the app, free floating. So that is a 5x. So obviously, the Spider-Man went from 30 gems to 100 gems and then 500 gems, but it doesn't end there. No. January, we saw a much bigger pump, okay? December was just the start of it. So from around about 75 million gems, if we go to the end of January, we went to over 100 million gems in the app. And this continued all throughout February as well. So this is extremely important because the number of gems was matching the amount of gems required to purchase the new collectibles, and at some points was even in excess. So we could see consistent growth in the collectibles, especially the older collectibles. We saw a consistent rise. The golden moments just went through the roof. Now we go to February, we're still seeing consistent growth. However, we are starting to see some days where it's red, nothing too crazy, obviously we just can't go up forever, right? Now, here we started to see some irregular growth, right? This is the point where the people who are money laundering gems, they were starting to get a bit greedy. We started to see days where we weren't just going up in gems 1 million at a time. Here we went from 124 million straight to 132 million. That was the day, I believe, yeah, that must have been a day when we had $8 million worth in gems put into the app, and I think there was nothing special. It was like a random comic. And that kind of, really was a red flag for the VeVe team, and they kind of cracked down and restricted accounts and whatnot. So yeah, if we just continue now, April, that is when the market really started to have a downturn, and this, back in the start of April, we started to see the number of gems from 132 million start to drop. So the number of free floating gems in the app is going down. Now, obviously, to match the number of gems required for the collectibles, you at least need the number of gems in the app to increase by that much, if you don't want too much liquidation of existing collectibles. Now, that's fine. We do have a lot of gems held by people. Maybe they will use those gems. That's what we've been seeing. So for all the drops from 1st of April, people were mostly using gems that they already had in the app, their existing liquidity. So 132 million. And then, a few months in, we're down to 127 million. So we used about, 5 million gems worth. And then 126, 127, we're hovering around there, 124. Now, if we go down to June, we are down to around about 124 million gems. So even though people are adding gems in the app every day, we're spending more gems than what we're adding. So the amount of gems in the app is shrinking, which means the amount of free floating liquidity is going to shrink. Your collectibles are probably not going to be selling for the same prices that they were a few months ago. And judging by the looks of this, as VeVe drops more and more NFTs, if there aren't more gems going into the app, net wise, we're not going to see things selling out like we used to. We're going to see a lot of things, selling at, huge discounts. And that's just how the app's going to progress for now. That's perfectly fine. That's normal market movement. Nothing crazy to be worried about, to be honest. The fact that VeVe from like a year ago, we went from a couple million gems in the app all the way to 124 million gems in the app. That is crazy. That's a 70x in terms of the free floating liquidity in the app. Now, obviously, we have a lot more collectibles in the app than we did a year ago. Understandable. But we do have a fair amount of liquidity still sitting in the app. When MTL comes out, some of this liquidity is obviously going to get pulled out. So it'll be interesting to see what the true liquidity in VeVe is. Now, obviously, the amount of money being spent in the app, for OMI burn, it's been great. OMI is down, in the past few weeks. We've gone from less than 50 billion OMI to nearly 57 billion burned. Like, that is crazy. 7 billion burned in a couple of weeks. I believe end of this month, or at least this month, we're going to smash that 60 billion OMI burn mark. Again, this is non-circulating supply, but I believe the team does have a lot of I believe they've got things in the works to help burn the circulating supply of OMI. Now, this is where the maths starts to come in, right? Like, this is why collectibles are not going to be selling out in the app unless they're extremely key pieces. And if those are extremely key pieces, then expect a sustained market dip. Not one of those market dips that, your collectibles instantly bounce back, but when they dip, they're going to be sat, they're going to dip there for quite a while. Unless they're key pieces, because I did see the golden moments, like the Donald Ducks, the Pooh Bears, all of those stuff in the last Vader dip, they did bounce back. But a lot of the artist pieces, they dropped and they dipped and they have not recovered. And if we get more significant pieces, I believe those artist pieces, many of them are going to dip again, just because they don't have the amount of demand that a lot of these top brand IP collectibles have, like, the golden moments, for example. So let's just take the more recent drop, right? So June the 5th, we had the Harlequin drop. Now, I'm going to take the figures from the day before. So $383,000 of gems is what we had added into the app. $333,000. Now, if we go to the Harlequin article, so we had 7.5k collectibles at 40 gems, 5.5k at 50 gems, 70 gems worth at 3.25, and 90 at 1750. So we'll try and remember that. So 7, let's just use the brackets. So okay, 7500 at 40 gems. Oh, that's 8. Okay, I can't type today. 7550 okay, press the space bar because I'm used to doing that, times 40 plus 5500 times 50 plus 3250 times, I believe it's 70, and then the last one, 1750 plus times 90. Okay, so that looks all right to me. Now I'm not including the well, I'm including the amount that the team keeps behind, so you know this figure is going to be a bit lower, but we need, let's see, $960,000 worth into the app, so nearly $1 million, right? Let's just round this down to $900,000. Now that's how much gems we need to be purchased to not cause a dip on the existing collectibles, assuming this sells out. So what did we have instead? You know, the day before we saw $333,000 worth of gems, and even if we include the gems on the day of the drop, 331, we're still actually less than the total amount of that drop. Now that's barely, you know, 700,000. Typically we would want this, you know, this combined figure to be way above, you know, the amount of gems required for the drop if we want it to sell out, and if we don't want too much of a market dip. But again, the Harlequin didn't sell out, so I believe, you know, with the amount of dollars going into the app, we're not going to be seeing too many sellouts, like I said, unless they're key pieces, or unless they're like, you know, relatively cheap pieces like comics, you know, the blind box stuff, because of the gambling factor and because of how, you know, inexpensive it is. We only need about $210,000 on the day. I believe for that, at least we will sell out. We will continue to sell out for a while. I haven't seen a comic yet that has not sold out, so it'll be interesting to see when we see our first comic that doesn't sell out for the day. But, you know, bear that in mind. So what is going to happen next? Now, I believe that once we do have OMI2 NFT, that's going to bring in a lot more liquidity. We're not just going to have dollar amounts going to the app. We're going to have dollar amounts in OMI going to the app very freely. That's what's going to really add a lot of liquidity, and I think that's going to be the biggest catalyst we'll ever see on VeVe. You know, as far as I'm aware. Now, when that happens, I believe we'll see exponential growth, like we saw, you know, from when we were only getting a couple of million gems into the app to 124 million. It is very difficult to get money into the app, so, you know, once we get OMI to NFT, we should be all good. Up until then, I believe we're going to start to see a much more realistic VeVe, things not selling out as intended. We're going to see, you know, things that don't just go 100x straight after the drop as intended. You know, David and Dan never intended for things to be flipped, you know, 5x literally straight after the drop, or, you know, things to be selling out constantly every single drop. They intended for this to be a collector's app, and that's kind of what it's starting to transition into. So, you know, this goes to the point of, you know, don't buy everything expecting it to go, you know, in profit, or don't buy things solely for the purpose of making profit. Buy things that you're happy to hold. You know, I'm happy to hold the current sets that I have. I have been skipping certain drops. I skipped the Harlequin drop last because I'm not really that interested in Harlequin, and I suspected it wasn't going to sell out as intended, as expected, and it did. It didn't sell out, and the Ultra actually went below retail as I anticipated. So, you know, that's a fair point. So this is really important. Just bear that in mind. Right, we're going to start to see a much more realistic VeVe, but, you know, assuming deliverables for this quarter are met, assuming we get OMI to NFT, MCP, all the good stuff that actually makes collecting, you know, valuable and rewarded again, then yeah, we will start to see that next phase of transition into the VeVe app, where we start to see exponential growth once again. And at that point, you know, people who accumulated at these bottom prices, they're the ones who are going to be, you know, in that next wave, the ones who are going to be, you know, turning out that, you know, 3x, 4x, 5x, 10x, whatever it is on your VeVe portfolio. Just like we saw, you know, people who took advantage of the last cycle, they stacked, you know, $30, $40 common Spider-Mans and, you know, like super cheap Marvel comic ones. We'll see what happens in the next cycle. Now, on that point, if we just go straight to the OMI chart. So this is on the daily. Now we are down back to this very key point of support, and this is very nice. However, you know, I'm gonna try and draw this as best as I can, just to show you guys what is happening. Bring this down a bit. Okay, so every time we hit the support around about kind of 0.13, 0.14, we had a bounce back very quickly. Now, the last couple of times we hit it, that bounce back obviously significantly smaller, once and twice. And, you know, we are seeing a lot less volume. And where are we heading to next? So, you know, I believe that we are going to be going, if we kind of pull this up. So this looks pretty good. Now, if we pull this to the side a bit, we can see that OMI's been kind of trending this channel, and we saw, you know, this kind of wick down here. That's perfectly fine, and we've been trading within this channel for a while. We're still trading within this channel. However, we saw here that we were kind of in this upper range for a while. We dropped down. We haven't broken down to this lower range. However, I believe in the next couple of days, if OMI price stays stable and we hit here, if we can break out above 1.6, say at 0.16 cents, and we can hold, then yeah, we should start to see a breakout of this channel. However, most likely what I believe is kind of because we're seeing lower highs from this point of support, what I believe is going to happen is we're going to hit this 0.16 in the next coming weeks, and we are going to break down lower. And again, there is speculation that Bitcoin is going to come down lower to, you know, as low as 18K. If that happens, then, you know, we're going to go back to the triple zeros of OMI. And the triple zeros, that does kind of line up for me, because if I come down to kind of towards the end of the month, you know, 1st of July, assuming we stay within this main channel here, 1st of July, you know, 0.1 to the triple zeros, that's the kind of range I'm seeing. So yeah, this descending channel trend has been holding. But again, I am liquid for that OMI buy. I'm hoping to have accumulated, you know, my ultimate aim for this cycle is to try and get 50 million OMI if I can. It's going to be hard. I'm going to have to sell some stuff, but yeah, I should definitely break at least 40 million OMI this cycle. So in terms of total holdings, which puts me in a decent spot. You know, I haven't sold a single OMI token yet. Just been accumulating, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I want to go through with you guys. Again, I will try and keep these updates regular now. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys. See you in the next one. See ya.